the question is it better than Starfield Space Combat though?
Yeah, I didn't play Starfield.
Starfield have space combat? No, it doesn't. There you go. That's the point. Okay. And welcome back to another episode of the Games Gone By podcast. I'm your host, Adam Baskell, and joining me, as always, are a couple of gaming experts and enthusiasts. Jeff and Austin, how you guys doing today?
What's up, Adam? How's it going, man? I'm excited to talk about Star Wars again.
Yeah, hey y'all, glad to be here back on our Star Wars podcast.
Yeah, we do love Star Wars here, so it's really no surprise that we were going to tackle this game, which is Ubisoft's latest open-world adventure, Star Wars Outlaws, starring Kay Vess, the human from Canto Bight. Yeah, I can just read my character notes here, but I do want to just start off with the overall impressions, guys, because there's been some, I'll just call it bizarre reception to this game, mostly from people who clearly didn't play the damn thing, but I liked it. It wasn't necessarily my favorite thing. I have plenty of gripes, but overall, I thought it was totally worth the money and time I spent on it. Well, what about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it a lot. I probably liked it too much, despite some of its shortcomings. But it is the most Star Warsy game I've played in a decade. I don't know. I feel like I'd have to dig up Knights of the Old Republic or something to find a game that feels more Star Wars. What about you, Austin?
Oh yeah, I mean that's definitely my biggest takeaway coming out of this is like the general vibes of the game. It's like kind of silly to go, oh, the vibes, man, but really, this game is so much just a like Star Wars sandbox. You just get in and it feels like you're in the like living, breathing world of Star Wars. And the way they incorporate, the music and the sound design and the planets and just the environment design, like everything feels so Star Warsy. And that's the thing that I came out of the most with this game is just how like perfectly they match the tone of Star Wars.
Yeah, it's such a thoroughly like Star Wars setting and like incredibly immersive in the Star Wars world, right? Like from the clothes to the sounds to the ships to the planets to the way characters talk, it's just so incredibly Star Wars. Like I can't think of another game that has like another Star Wars game that has like fully voiced characters talking in alien languages like Huttese and
yeah.
I can't think of another one, but there are multiple like fully voiced alien languages in the game that are so well done. If you listen, you can hear them like speak character names and other like English or galactic basic words get worked into this character who's only talking in Huttese. It's just so authentic. And if you're going to gripe about it, this is the one thing that you can't gripe about.
The languages in particular, they really are a step above. Like, do you remember in KOTOR when it was just the same 3 or 4 recycled jibber over and over because every alien language sounded the same?
That same Twi'lek voice line, no matter if he was saying 3 words or 7.
Yes. It's definitely a step above that. And yeah, to just echo what you guys are saying, if this thing the thing it does best in my mind is absolutely that like world design, that environmental design, especially, man, Tatooine, Mos Eisley. What more could you want? I mean, it's got like the stormtroopers, it's got the cantina, it's got all the goofy aliens and droids around. You got the Sarlacc out in the desert. I mean, it truly feels like every planet you're on, if you recognize it from something, then you will recognize it. You know what I mean? Like, sure, I don't know what the hell a Kiva is, but Tatooine, yeah, like I instantly recognized all the little landmarks of Tatooine and it feels very lived in. And yeah, it's awesome.
Wandering through Mos Eisley was just such a familiar experience. Like I've seen Mos Eisley in lots of games since like Star Wars Galaxies, and it still has that like one crashed ship out by the cantina or whatever that's been there for generations of Star Wars games. It was incredible.
And even if you don't recognize the planet, right? Even going to Akiva or Tashara, which I'm pretty sure has not shown up in anything to this point, like they also feel very authentically Star Wars. Like it feels like if you place this into a movie, it would fit right in and you would feel the same way about it. You'd be like, oh my God, like I recognize this and this. Like it just feels exactly like what you would imagine in a Star Wars game. Kind of the seedy underworld vibes in Tashara and then like the jungle-y like swamp areas of Akiva. Just they feel like a perfect fit in that universe, even without having any like recollection from past material.
And let's just, give them props for having the audacity to start the game off on Canto Bight. All right, this game
just immediate sequels, like
right in your face. I was like, "You son of a bitch! Are you making me enjoy sequel content? This is unacceptable."
I took solace in the fact that I knew it was the starter plan and we'd never be back. So
I was honestly kind of disappointed that we didn't visit Canto Bight more, because I think there's a lot they could do with the like casino world element of Canto Bight in this kind of smuggler game. So I kind of wish we had spent more time on Canto Bight.
Canto Bight felt more authentically Star Wars in this game than it ever did in the movies. Like, huge
That's
props.
so very true.
Yeah, huge props for like the whole workers district motif and like giving life to like a world that was supposed to show off decadence in the movie, but really just showed off like space Monaco or whatever. It's like, oh, they're literally playing at a craps table. Okay, I guess that's decadent. Like, this got you in on the ground floor of like renting an attic above a cantina, you know? Like, I just thought it was a really solid opening, and it was a Trojan horse into me praising sequel content. That's just fucking impressive. So
I don't think it helps that in the movie nothing fucking happens on the planet. Like, the whole sequence is entirely irrelevant to the final like half hour. So it's the opposite here, right? I mean, it really sets up the whole story and like why Kay ends up beholden to who she does and why she has to go on this final heist and recruit everything. And we'll get into some of that story in a minute. But since this is a video game, we should go ahead and I think start with the gameplay. Overall, let me just start with this. What did you guys think was like the best part of the gameplay? What part did you think was really the most fun you were having?
For me, I think it ended up being the upgraded gunplay. I am somewhat addicted to just blasting my way into Imperial bases. Like, I got a little tired of the stealth mechanics, and now I just want to fucking gun down stormtroopers because I can. Austin, what have you been spending all your hours on?
I was about to say, I feel like my experience of it has been almost the polar opposite of that, where the stealth gameplay is really the strongest part that stands out to me. And particularly using the tools that Kay is given, particularly her little pet Nyx that can interact with a lot of the objects in the world, distract the guards, just do a bunch of little like things to manipulate the environment that to give you an advantage that you wouldn't have otherwise. And I think those little touches make this stealth stand out a little more than some other games. It's not the most complex stealth mechanics I've ever seen, but they do add a little bit of a twist that kept the stealth engaging for me throughout.
Yeah, I guess I'm pigeonholing myself a little bit with saying the blaster combat. My favorite moments by far are like rolling up to an enemy base on my speeder, pulling out my binocs, I think it is, marking the enemies, sneaking my way in, and then I just like, after I get in the base though, I immediately want to start lighting people up. I have so much fun opening up by telling Nyx to attack someone like in a pair, stunning like a third person, and then like sneak striking the last one. Triple takedowns are awesome.
There's like a 10 to 12 hour span. I completely forgot about the fucking binoculars, like entirely. And,
but you mark people and then they stay up and it like stay on your screen, like the little HUD tracker. That's so cool.
It is. So when I first started, maybe the first few combat encounters, it felt like I was playing Uncharted 2, and I mean that in the worst way possible. No. Third-person shooters that don't take place in a setting where we recently discovered mass relays on Mars are just not my thing. But I will say, once, like you were saying, Jeff, once you get those upgrades, it does open up a little bit because the droids become a new kind of enemy instead of an insurpassable obstacle. And the explosive one's really cool for the heavier guys, and you can use the ion to take out the little shielded turret dude. So I think the variety of blaster upgrades and whatnot, I do think add a lot to it, and that did feel a little better. I wish the tools they gave you were a little more accessible. I'm sure you were playing this on keyboard, right, Jeff?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so on controller, those little tools like the smoke bombs and stuff are so stupid. It's like you have to press like a button and then scroll through it, or then press another button to use them. I can't remember what it was, but...
It's really clunky. I forgot the exact thing, but I think it's like you press a trigger and then have to use a direction on the D-pad, but like it just doesn't feel good to use them, and I stopped using them almost immediately.
That's surprising.
I just got really good at never getting caught instead of using smoke bombs is really how this worked.
To me, it never felt like I could use them quickly enough to get out of the situation. without it just feeling super clunky and awkward, and then I would just get shot. So it didn't matter at that point.
I think quick draw is supposed to be the answer to that, because it gives you a few seconds to kind of decide whether you're going to blast them, stun them, smoke. But yeah, most of the time I just stunned them, right? So, yeah.
Oh man, almost every time I did that delay tactic ability or whatever, it was because I got impatient waiting for Nyx to run and jump on the guy's face, and he noticed me. So I had to give him pause for a second so that Nyx could start clawing his face, and then I could just run and full frontal punch him in the gut and, one-shot them.
I did enjoy the stealth for the most part, although you do really run out of new things in it pretty quickly. Like, some part through the story, you get something that lets you incapacitate the droids in a stealth way, and the big, Gamorrean guards, the heavier enemies. I think there's a few expert upgrades and maybe a couple charms that increase your stealth here and there. But for the most part, if you don't like the stealth the first few times you do it, you probably won't, because it doesn't seem to really change significantly after that. I think that's fair to say.
No, yeah, I really don't think it does at all. And in fact, I started out trying to buff my stealth ability because I was like, all right, it's a stealth game. I want to be really good. I want to be the shadow, the one who knocks or whatever, shadow in the night. But then I realized that it's just an easy game. So the stealth is pretty easy to get correct. So instead I just wanted health, so that whenever I fucked up and started panicking, I could just tank shots. Austin, how often did you have to go loud?
It was pretty. I would say 30% of the time I'd mess up, and it's all right, time to light this up. A lot of times I would just reset an area if it got to the point where I would go loud, because I wanted to do the stealth as much as possible. I wanted to clear out the base. There was something satisfying to me about let's clear this base, all silent. We're going to sneak around the corners. We're going to maybe grab a sniper that's hanging on a rack and take out a stormtrooper from across the way, and then run and hide and duck around a corner. Everybody's looking for me now, but no one can find me. That was really cool for me. So a lot of the times I went loud, I ended up resetting or leaving the area, or just getting myself killed so that I could do it again. Yeah. Not to say that I didn't like the gunplay. I thought it was fine and serviceable. I definitely thought the best parts of it were just the standard blaster and the ion. I never really used the third upgrade that much. The long charge shot, the big explosive shot. I didn't use that a ton because I felt like it wasn't as effective as just using my regular gun.
That's all I use after I unlocked it. I don't think I ever switched back.
Interesting.
Really? Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dude, it freaking destroyed everything.
But you get 2 shots.
Well, yeah, I've taken everything else out with stealth. I didn't have to use more than 2 shots.
Oh, my bad. You've never had more than 3 targets in front of you.
Like I said, only when I was trying to get that stupid kill 3 Death Troopers in a row and only 2 showed up at a time. That was infuriating.
I do think it's interesting that we all kind of took a slightly different approach to the game and all had a fair amount of fun with it. It makes it feel like any option of playing it is viable to enjoy the game.
Yeah, there are a lot of mechanics here. Again, none of them are groundbreaking or even necessarily new. I think I've seen everything in this game in a different title before, but they managed to all bring them into a single video game and have them all work relatively well. Sometimes together, sometimes independently. But I never felt like any mechanic in the game was just straight up broken. Are there some problems with some of the quests? Yes, but I thought the mechanics still ran pretty well.
And just for those that don't know, if you haven't played it, which is apparently everyone talking about this game, but I guess it was the Arkham games, the Batman games, that really started the whole detective vision thing. And you get a little alien pet Nyx, which kind of allows you to do that. You can kind of see certain things highlighted that are useful, alarms you can turn off, barrels you can blow up, and you can send your little pet to go do these things. You can use it to distract guards. So it kind of combines all those little things that these stealth games do into Nyx, which I thought was pretty cool. The only thing I didn't care too much was some of the upgrades. I think you can trap an alarm instead of just disable it. I don't think I ever watched one of those traps go off a single time.
I would do that on purpose sometimes. I would have Nyx trap an alarm and then kind of alert a guard so that they would go pull the alarm and then just watch them explode, which is kind of fun.
That's interesting. Yeah, I guess I was kind of like what you were saying, Austin. If it was a story mission, I got caught, I reloaded like every time. I wouldn't do that in the open world necessarily because who knows what the last checkpoint was. But yeah, I didn't get a ton of use out of some of that stuff.
And there definitely are a couple mechanics that I agree. Like they weren't all useful. We kind of talked about the gadgets. I didn't use a ton.
What did you guys think of the stun setting for the blaster?
Oh god, I used it all the time.
I did enjoy that.
Yeah, I can't recall another time I've used stun in Star Wars, and the fact that it's a silent one-shot takedown for everything but the toughest enemies is so great.
Oh, it's amazing. I use stun more than I shot things, I think. Like almost 100%.
It is a nice little thing that when you screw up stealth just with one guy, you can quickly diffuse that situation. And, there's a bit of a cooldown on it, so you can't spam it. I really thought it was like really well balanced, really useful.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most solid mechanics about the stealth gameplay. And there's some gear out there that will give you bonuses to like, if you do a stun shot and then use smoke grenades or something, it will very quickly like recharge the stun blaster, and I tried to do that as often as possible. I never quite figured it out, but like back-to-back stuns were awesome the like one time I pulled it off.
Yeah, and just to explain what you're talking about with the outfits, you can equip pants, a belt, and a jacket, I believe, and each of these will have little boosts of various kinds to your characters, much like the charms. But if you get all three of the same set, you'll have an extra set bonus on top. You can get these in shops and missions. I think the best ones are probably through the reputation system, though, and you also get one just from the main quest.
That's right.
Now, I don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, you should get good, but there were a lot of complaints about the stealth in the early part of this game, to the point where Ubisoft came out and said they like fixed a bunch of the AI and stuff at the beginning. Dude, I'm sorry. I understand there are some people who don't play a lot of games, but those aren't the fucking idiots on message boards complaining about it. Those people play nothing but games. How are you this fucking bad? They give you so many tools to get through stealth sequence in this game. I mean, we talked about a lot of them already, but like, the charms that increase your stealth, the stun thing, the smoke bomb, Nyx's upgrades, like you can punch things, you can kind of just run away and hide, and if they didn't stare at you too long, they'll go back to what they were doing. Like, I truly don't understand how people were tripping up over the quote-unquote mandatory stealth sections, which to me is just an inane thing to say. This is a stealth game with mandatory shooting sections.
Yeah, right. Like, okay, so you're right, Adam. This game is not hard. Like, I definitely played, before and after this patch that we're talking about, and it was not hard before, and it was not hard after. The only slight validity there is that it did sometimes feel awkward. Like, I would trip up. So, the enemies are practically deaf and blind, right? Like, it's really easy to sneak around them.
Classic stormtroopers.
Yes, very classic. Like, they literally have no peripheral vision. Sometimes I would like alert someone who was like around the corner and out of sight with me, and it would chain react across like the entire base. I was like, okay, I'm confused. How is like no one pulled an alarm? It's just everyone outside now knows I'm here because one guy saw me. He hasn't even shot me yet. And they did seem to fix that. So, props to them for at least making it a little less ridiculous. As far as like stormtroopers across the base finding you, but you're right. There was something difficult about this stuff.
And I do know that some of that early like some of those complaints revolved around like having to sneak in the criminal bases. Like there's 4 different criminal factions that you can kind of change your allegiance with throughout the game, and each of those base areas that belong to those factions, if you're in poor standing with those factions, you have to sneak through them. They will kick you out if they see you. And I know in some of those early parts, like, people were complaining that you had to sneak through those bases without being able to up your loyalty with those factions. But, like, what would you expect? Like, of course you're going to get kicked out of, like, the criminal base that you're sneaking in. Like, I thought that was a cool way to introduce the mechanic. Sneak through those bases and, like, learn that if you don't want to have to ever do this again, you have to increase your allegiance with those factions. You have to be smart and help those factions when you want to get into their base to steal from them. Like, that was the way to introduce why, like, you don't want to do this. Like, we're making you do this right now so that you understand that it's annoying and that you need to increase your allegiance. And it's not even that hard or anything, but it is like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be able to freely run through this area. So let me get my allegiance up. I thought that worked to its advantage, not to its disadvantage, personally.
I agree. If you just spend some time playing the game and like actually building a little bit of reputation, which is not hard, you can do practically whatever you want. Like God forbid the the gang districts in these big urban cities being in the one place you can't just wantonly blast your way through or whatever. Like, come on.
Sneaking through the bases was probably my single favorite activity in the entire game. So it just blows my mind that people hated that. I got a kick out of like, oh yeah, that's Kay. Come on in, we trust you. And I'm like, I'm here to rob your most prized possessions. Like it's, and you won't know I was here.
Yeah. I'm gonna go get myself 5,000 credits right now. Yeah.
Well, now might be a good time to talk about that reputation system. For the most part, I found it like kind of uninteresting and didn't care to interact with it. But again, my favorite part of it was, like you were saying, Austin, like half of the bases would become like friendly to you if you got that reputation up. And I thought that was a pretty cool reward. That was both like, it fit the universe in kind of like a lore way. It felt good gameplay wise. It actually felt like that felt more useful than almost any item I picked up in this entire game that I could equip, right? So I really enjoyed like that benefit of getting a reputation to maximum.
Yeah, that's where I think, the reputation system doesn't maybe go all the way. Like the concept is cool, and I don't know if it necessarily takes it as far as it can go. It's almost like it's trying to do the Nemesis system from Shadow of Mordor, but like without fully committing to that whole like the guys will come back and like they'll remember you forever and ever, and it's like it goes halfway there, but it doesn't quite take it to its final conclusion to me. But I did like the idea of go do special missions for the factions that you have the highest allegiance with and get their like special gear. Like I got the Crimson Dawn gear and like it was pretty cool. It looked cool. It had some cool perks. Like
so
go
good.
Run through and get that stuff. And you could do that for every faction, which is kind of annoying. Like I wish there was a little more consequence sometimes where you couldn't get perfect allegiance with everybody. I didn't want to get full allegiance with everybody. I thought that kind of defeated the purpose of it, and the fact that they even like let you do it is kind of annoying. I wish there was more, you make this choice and now this other faction doesn't like you. Like that, I wish there was more balance where it would always be one or the other instead of like, I can get excellent with everybody if I want to.
Did either of you guys ever have your reputation drop into the like kill squad area of the reputation meter?
I wanted to ask you guys that. I did not. I have not seen a single criminal kill squad.
I did once and got it fixed pretty quickly, so I never actually saw the kill squads.
You were that afraid of Jabba?
I was like, nah, man, I'm not messing with this.
So by like purposely avoiding you doing any hut missions for about 8 hours straight, I managed to get them down all the way. And here's the thing. They mostly come out when you're in the open world. And when you're in the open world, you mostly are on your speeder bike. And it's fighting things on the speeder bike. First off, you can't really. You can use your...
I'd say it's not good.
Gun the game / the Matrix / bullet time / how many mechanics is this in ability where you slow down time and headshot things. And that's cool. But other than that, it's just really fucking annoying. There's just guys that ride around and harass you until you get your reputation back up. It sucked. It was truly awful. It's just incentive for you to turn around and go do a mission for that faction. That's
for you to not stay like that. Like, yeah, you should not stay in this zone. Stop.
Yeah. That was my primary takeaway when like I saw that your reputation could drop so low that they would come after you, and I was like, oh, that just sounds like a fucking hassle. How about we don't ever let that happen? And as it turns out, it's really easy to never let that happen.
It really is. I think the more interesting version of that is being wanted by the Empire, which I wouldn't necessarily say is like super threatening. Like it's especially when like you can get your wanted level lowered by just dying, which is kind of weird. Like,
oh, so do you know the easiest way to make it go away?
For me, it was just die. But
if you pull up to a major city, you can't fight in major cities. So like the stormtroopers just arrest you.
Oh, and then it's just over?
Yeah. I had a Death Trooper manhunt going on Akiva, and I speeded bike into the city there. I think it's Mira or something. And there's a stormtrooper out front, and he like aggroes me, and I was ready to gun him down, right? Like I need to go find his Death Trooper buddies and kill them in a minute. But Kay just gives up, and he arrests you, and you lose like 200 credits, and that's the end of the manhunt.
You really do. You can just pay a fine for like going on a mass shooting spree. It's.
I was expecting. I had killed like 100 stormtroopers at this point. I was expecting like some sort of like Skyrim wake up in a prison or like have to escape from the several Imperial bases, right? Like that's what I was expecting. That did not happen.
It's no wonder Kay didn't want to be associated with the rebels, because that's apparently the only way you can end up in prison is if
it's not even an Imperial prison, right?
The Imperials really don't care if you kill all of them, as long as you're not a rebel. Like smugglers have free reign of Imperial murder is basically what happens here.
I did like the wanted system, though. Like I enjoyed the way it staged up over time, where at first it's just kind of like maybe some scout troopers, and you can hear all their chatter too, which sounds like police chatter, like apprehend the suspect, armed and dangerous, call for backup, blah, blah, blah. And then after you get over like 5 or 6 pips or whatever, like stormtrooper carriers start showing up at checkpoints and throw up like gates and stuff.
I liked like being able to clear your wanted by going find the like Imperial officer who's like hiding out in a camp, and you could like steal their whatever it is that you like steal to clear your wanted level, and like you have to fight through the Death Troopers to get it, or like sneak through them if you wanted to do it that way. Like I liked that mechanic. I just thought it was weird that you could clear it so easily so often. Like
you just hack a terminal.
I was gonna say there's the terminals you can hack.
It just felt like there was no real consequence to like dying in the middle of a wanted. It was like, okay, well,
yeah, like a lot of parts of this game, it feels like there's sort of a good base there, but it just wasn't fully baked or completely fleshed out in the best way possible. Which is why I want people to stop hating on this game, because I want a sequel where it's the same thing but better.
Jeff wants to experience the Jedi Survivor version of this game.
Correct.
Yes. So you mean a worse version? Got it. Okay.
Oh my god!
Let's go.
Yes, they've fallen for my trap.
But speaking of half-baked things, I think none of us really felt strongly about space, right? I think space kind of fell flat for everybody.
I almost just said, let's talk about space. It sucks. Let's talk about speeders.
It's fine, right? Like, it's okay, but it does nothing interesting or special. Like, after pretty quickly, I stopped doing space unless there was a mission where I had to do space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Much like the rest of this game, the best part of it was kind of just the environments and the aesthetics of it, right? I thought it was really cool that when you took off from the planet, it's just a disguised loading screen, but you really do like go through the atmosphere and then come out into space, and there's all these asteroids, and you can land on these space stations that are out there that really reminded me of a game like Freelancer, kind of coming into the dock and picking up missions and going, oh my God, and do them.
Yeah.
I was really excited about space for the first half hour or so, and then I sort of realized like, yes, I have done it all already, haven't I?
Yeah, I wish space was more fun, right? Like that, there's a few problems with it, like your fancy maneuvers come too late in the game. It's kind of tedious.
That was
to
so
upgrade
dumb.
the ship. Yeah, yeah. It's like, oh, I can't do a backflip or like a barrel roll.
Like all the cool things you'd want to do in a ship are locked behind some expert in the late game. Who thought of this?
Yeah, and I didn't get most of that stuff because by that time I stopped caring about space.
I don't think I quite finished it either.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is like, do all these things in space that I had probably already done, but I wasn't going to do again because, I wasn't going to spend more time in space.
Yeah, and so just to kind of explain what the experts are, basically you'll meet these characters in the story that will almost have like achievements attached to them, challenges. So it'll be kill this number of people with a headshot, throw this many grenades, use Nyx to do this, whatever. And when you complete these, you'll kind of gain permanent character boost. So it's just a little progression system.
Did you guys ever reach max wanted in space? Did you blow up some Imperial cruisers?
No, I don't think so. I think the only capital ships I fought were like pirates on various missions.
Yeah. So it's a bit like that. Just the Imperials have a slightly beefed up version. Although honestly, was it the Imperial ship that shot missiles at me? It might have been the pirate vessel. The only time I ever feared for my life in space was some capital ship that was firing 4 missiles at me at a time, and that was a little rough. But
Despite them locking a lot of the cool stuff late with like the late game experts, I did like the expert system a lot overall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked them kind of tying it to a character that you meet in the world that kind of teaches you things almost. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool way to do progression in a game and allow it to be kind of emergent, right? Because it's about you finding the character in the world, which depends on like what order you visit the planets and whether you've done the main quest on the planet and stuff. So that is interesting, but it also did cause me anxiety the whole time where I'm like, I have to go unlock all the experts right now because what if I'm grinding stuff I won't want to grind later? And
yeah, there's like a couple things would be retroactive. Like I know breaking into vaults was, but then none of the space stuff was, like Austin was saying. So,
which was crazy.
It was cool though. You know, your traditional skill tree, talent tree is definitely a classic for a reason. But I definitely appreciated them doing something a little different, kind of having you know, really they're trying to simulate the idea that like you learn to get better at things by doing them. That's sort of what it's trying to, you know, simulate there. And I think it works pretty well. You know, I definitely have some issues with the execution a little bit and the pacing and where you unlock some of them and whatnot. But overall, I'm with Austin. I did like this idea.
Yeah. It reminds me of like, you know, older RPGs that had you gain different types of experience, right?
Yeah.
Like you had to grind different weapon classes, and that always appealed to me, but actually grinding multiple types of experience has never been fun. So this was kind of a way to do that
I immediately thought of like Final Fantasy 2 and how much like people hated it in that, but I thought it worked pretty well here for the most part. I thought it was weird that some things were not retroactive and some things were, and like kind of like I was saying, the order that you unlock some of this stuff was bizarre. Like, and a lot of that had to do with which planet you went to, but the game definitely funneled you into a path that it like wanted you to take. And then some of the stuff that was like in the late game was like, well, like, why wouldn't I have gone to this thing earlier? Like, this is so frustrating.
Yeah, Austin, what order did you visit the planets in?
I went the order that it feels like the game wants you to, I think, where I went Kajimi, Tatooine, Akiva.
Yeah, what about you, Adam?
I believe I did the same thing, although I kind of bounced back and forth once I realized that like I had missed an expert or something, but I think that was more or less what I did.
Yeah, same for me. So like, even though this game is supposed to feel kind of sandboxy, we all did the same path, the same order. So maybe they should have made that order a little bit better. After I got done with Akiva, I was like, I kind of wish I came here first.
Yeah, there definitely are some things where it's like, I wish I had gotten this expert a little earlier, or like leaving Tashara pretty early, not doing like everything on Tashara, like do kind of some basic stuff and then leave, go to the next planet, do a little bit there, and then kind of bounce between planets after that. Because it feels like the game wants you to kind of go to all the planets simultaneously and not like clear one at a time. So yeah. I started kind of following that trajectory at a certain point, but it doesn't help with like a lot of the experts and stuff.
Yeah, it's... So I agree with you. They were absolutely trying to get you to go around between worlds and come back to places repeatedly. There just wasn't enough of a hook to get me off world half the time. And, you know, after you got onto a planet, there were so many things to do. I was like, no, I want to go finish this stuff, or, you know, I'm never going to come back to it. So I don't know. Bouncing from world to world, from landing pad to landing pad continuously across the galaxy feels kind of unimmersive to me. Because I don't know, that's just not how I run life.
That's fair. That's fair. It's
You don't plan out your route in the least efficient way possible.
Yes.
Yeah, but you never know what crime lord is gonna want you to go back to Tatooine to like smuggle some shit. So
sometimes it did feel like I got to work and forgot my laptop at home. It's kind of like the feeling I got.
Like,
So we've been talking about the planets, but I don't think we've really like listed them out. Adam, can you remind us what all the actual planets are?
Okay, so you start out on Canto Bight is actually the name of the city, right? It's called like Kanataka or something is the name of the planet.
Yeah, Cantotaria, something. Canto Bight's the city, you're right.
Yeah, we don't need to know what the planet name is.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, it's Canto Bight.
And once you escape there, you do a classic crash land and are stranded on a planet called Toshara, which is mostly ruled by, I think, like the Pikes and the Crimson Dawn. And they're the ones that are kind of feuding, and that's what you first get kind of wrapped up in. From there, you can go to, is Kajimi the kind of jungly one? No, is that Akiva?
No, that's Akiva.
Kajimi is the one that's kind
the
of
ice
like
one.
Yeah, just like a small city that's like mostly like winter.
Yeah, it's actually
it's the one planet that has like no open area.
That's right. It's just the city, and it's actually that city from Rise of Skywalker where. Do you remember the bounty hunter Zori Bliss?
Oh my god!
Of course you don't, because what the fuck was that?
That's where Babu Freak is, right? That's where they like repair the stuff.
So,
the little
yeah.
Tiny dude, Babu Freak. Yeah.
J.J. Abrams wanted to get the woman who played Felicity a nice bonus to play a no-name character for 12 seconds, and that's why that scene exists.
Yep.
So you go to Kajimi, and like you said, that's just a city. That's where the Ashiga rule, I believe.
Yes. Who were created for this game, correct?
I believe so. And they're kind of like a matriarchal bug-like kind of thing.
They are actual insectoid aliens, so I guess this is the classic sci-fi bug hive mind kind of thing. There's a joke in there later where like Kay assumes that they are like telepathic hive mind, and ND5 is like, no, why would you assume that? This is just their culture.
You're right.
That's just the way they behave. That's really weird, Kay.
They're just
why would
bugs.
you
Why are you presuming such things?
That's pretty racist, Kay.
Yes. Yeah. So I enjoyed that detail. It is the insectoid sci-fi trope, but with a little bit of nuance. They're not actually a hive mind.
Yeah, that planet was pretty cool. Then you kind of take the next extreme. We go from freezing cold to Tatooine, and everyone knows what Tatooine is. You got Jabba's palace, you got the Sarlacc pit, you got Mos Eisley. Really cool planet. Had pretty much all of the major landmarks that you know from the movies, right?
Yeah, if there was ever a game for Tatooine to be centered in, it would be Star Wars Outlaws. So I appreciated them.
I'm about to say, they really went all in and they executed it pretty perfectly to me. I mean, I think Tatooine is like the shining star of this game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's the planet I had the most fun on, for sure.
Then we end up on Akiva, which is kind of a jungly, swampy planet where you get a water thing for your speeder, so you can ride on water. That ends up being a lot of fun. Although that planet is a fucking nightmare to navigate before
it's the
you
worst.
get that.
It's absolutely awful. As soon as you land, do the main quest until you can drive your speeder on water.
The best way to play this game might actually be do the main quest up until the point of no return and then go do everything else. And I never play games like that, so I didn't really play this game like that, but I also kind of wished I had.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Like I needed them to do something to make me want to recruit my crew, right? And then wait. It doesn't make any sense though if you're putting together a crew for a heist. Once you have the crew together, go do the heist.
You should probably do the heist.
I don't understand. So there's that awkward tension there because yeah, you're right. The game I think would play a lot better if you recruited everyone and then went and had fun in the sandbox.
I think that's just a natural, like, hard thing for open world games to do is, like, funnel you through the main quest to get all of your unlocks, but we want to make sure that you can enjoy all the sandboxy elements that we've put too. It's I feel like no game has really gotten it perfect, and Outlaws is not an exception to that, unfortunately.
No, not at all.
And I guess maybe we can talk about the story now. I don't know. I don't even want to because it's just not that interesting until the heist. But we should at least state that, like, you know, after the tutorial area, it really does become obvious. Like, okay, this is one of those plots where like you're gonna recruit the crew so that you can pull off the big heist. And the big heist is just doing the heist you tried and failed to do at the beginning of the game, right? Like Kay is trying to rob this big rich guy on Canto Bight. She gets into the vault with the help of some people that turn out to be rebels. And instead of being treasure in the vault, it was like a rebel leader. And she's like, well, this sucks. And then they leave her for dead. And
yeah, to starting off with the rebels not looking great.
No, not at all.
I was gonna say, I do appreciate how much this game, like, doesn't let you fall into the trap of, like, Kay becomes a rebel. Like,
yeah, which makes a lot of sense. It's not like you can join the Empire in this game. You are an outlaw. That would be ridiculous.
Right.
So obviously, being outside the fascist government, you're going to work with the rebellion from time to time, and I think they did do that really well.
Yeah, and it's not like that awful scene in The Last Jedi where they try to like two sides this shit, and they're like, "Oh, both the rebels and the Empire run this war profiteering machine, isn't it awful?" It's like, no, I mean, they don't try to make it seem like the rebels are as bad as the Empire. Kay just has no interest in joining the rebels.
Right, and they kind of like screw her over early, and it's like Kay has her own person,
The story really does feel a little bit like Mass Effect 2 with less interesting characters.
Yeah, I bet.
It doesn't help that half the people you try to recruit fucking die before they join your ship.
Wait, hold on. I thought it was just the one guy. I thought it was just Haas who gets his face.
One of them is an expert, I guess. You're trying to get someone that's like a sharpshooter in Tatooine, and they die, and then the sheriff ends up joining you. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
It just turns out it is the sheriff. You like go around asking a bunch, and everyone's like, "Oh no, that wild, fastest gun in Mos Eisley or whatever died like last year." And then it's sort of a rabbit hunt until you find out it's actually the sheriff.
So who is the original heavy that you're going to recruit? Because it's not Asara, and then it just ends up being him.
It's Haas. It's the Sullustan on Tatooine.
Okay, so that's the crew member that dies. The other guy that dies is just that Rodian Waka that's kind of helping you out in the beginning. Yeah, then he finds out you have a bounty.
Yeah, that two-faced son of a bitch.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
I mean, so I liked Waka's downfall, right? Because you were talking earlier, Adam, about the tutorial. You crash land on Tashara. You get off of Tashara by finally repairing the ship, and you discover that the ship Kay has stolen is actually this like super sleek, like rare collector's model or whatever. And Waka is a mechanic who's obsessed with ships. He's also just like a shitty person who has run out of friends. And you are the last friend he makes and the last friend he betrays, because he's just like, "Kay, I fixed the ship. You're not good enough for her. You can't take care of her the way I can take care of her." And then he gets shot in the back by the bounty hunter who wants to arrest you. So that's how Waka dies.
Fitting.
I just really enjoyed his like, "I can take care of her" bit. He was like, "Fuck you, man."
I'll take care of you, Waka.
Yes.
I did like the like betrayal of Haas. Like I liked those elements because they felt very Outlaws-y. Like
yeah.
I liked when Haas tries to sell Nyx away, and I was like, "Nope, I hate this guy. Kill him right now." Like he like tries to give Nyx away so that it's like bet on a sabacc game, right? He's like, I'll bet this pet, and Kay's like, "What are you doing?"
The worst. The worst double cross she's ever had in her life, and she like kind of goes into blind rage.
I was so mad at that guy. I was like, "I hope you die." And then when he dies, I was like, "Hell yeah!" Like,
I had never been more excited to see someone get eaten by Jabba's pets. He literally does die to the wildlife that Jabba is keeping at his palace, but he doesn't get eaten literally by the Rancor, which was a little disappointing to me.
All the betrayal at the beginning is just conditioning you for the cascading dominoes of betrayals that occur in the last 35 minutes of this game.
Wait, there's a double cross on the heist? Are you saying Outlaws shouldn't be trusted?
Is it a triple?
No.
I'm trying to think. Is it a triple cross?
Dude, it's like so many crossings.
There's really a lot to confuse in this game when it comes to the characters and what they do, because they all kind of do the same thing to someone different, but in a different way. It's very bizarre.
They're all kind of out for themselves with sort of selfish motivations. Is that true, Austin?
Yeah, definitely. It feels very smuggler-y, right? I mean, it feels like what you would expect from a game called Star Wars Outlaws. I think it does get a little over the top at times, especially at the end, where it's like, you trust Jalen, and then he betrays you, and then it turns out like there's a bigger betrayal, and now you have to. It's just it's a mess, and I can't even remember all the stuff that happens at the end because it just hits you so fast and so much. It's like bam, bam, twist, turn, twist, twist, twist. Which I thought was like a little overwhelming and didn't exactly keep the pacing. So much of this story happens in the last 3 hours of the game.
Yes.
Yeah. This is the part where I admit I never even got to the actual heist. I don't know if I've said that yet. I did not finish the main story, right? And apparently all of the interesting story points really happened there at the end, Which makes some sense, but also, again, Ubisoft, like, let's work on the pacing and the interestingness.
I will say the twist I really did like is that Sliro, the Zarek Besh leader that you're like trying to rob this whole time, turns out that Zarek Besh is actually like an Imperial front to like smoke out the rebels and just to like have a hand in the criminal underworld. You find out at one point when he's confronted by Vader that Sliro is actually one of the what are they called, Adam?
The directors of the Imperial Security Bureau?
Yes, the ISB, yes. So Sliro is like an ISB director, and that's why he has this like unlimited resources to be running this criminal organization, and like there's a sense of escalation that I really like there, where it's like, oh, this is much bigger than we thought it was. Like this isn't just robbing some criminal guy who's like some upstart guy. Like, no, we're robbing the ISB right now. Like, the thing that we're about to steal is actually hundreds of thousands of Imperial contacts and like contacts from around the world and stuff or around the galaxy that could make a huge dent in the Imperial information network. And like, I thought that was a cool twist to kind of up the tension and the stakes for the final heist.
I was going to say, I need you to tell me everything about Darth Vader's cameo.
No, you need to go play up to Darth Vader's cameo. I will not describe it. You need to see it.
The cameo, the Vader cameo is so good.
Oh, God.
I really liked a lot of the cameos in this game, honestly. Jabba, Boba Fett. Like, I liked a lot of the teases and like little appearances. Lando is probably one of my favorite.
How could you forget Kira, the most iconic of all of the
yes.
I loved it. Our outfits matched. It was great.
I was actually very excited to see Kira when I saw her. I was like, yeah, I know you, Amelia Clark. Like,
I do want to talk about more of the ending, but before we do that, let's just cover all of 4 plot points that happened first.
I'm about to say, there's other stuff that happens.
And mainly just, I'm trying to keep the crew straight in my head, right? So you have the explosives expert is Ankh, right?
Yes.
And you rescue her from the bug people on Kijimi.
That's right. She is in service to the Ashiga clan, and you help her break out in, I guess, the most nonchalant way possible. Ankh is so great at being the psychopathic explosive expert. It's pretty well done.
Oh, she's so good.
Fantastic character all around.
I think the best of the crew, probably.
Yeah, certainly. I laughed so hard the first time I like went up into space with her on the ship and like shot a missile and blew up another fighter, and she cheered because I made it explode. And I was like, oh, that's good.
The core set of characters are pretty enjoyable, I thought. You know, have we even mentioned in D5, the commando droid? Like, he's because we kind of forgot to mention that when you're coming off of Toshara, you basically like you're gonna get killed by that bounty hunter who kills Waka, but Jalen and ND5 show up, I believe, and Jalen's like this outlaw.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's like, hey, guess what? I know what you did, and I'm gonna help you do it right this time. And now you're indebted to me because I saved your life, yada yada. I'm gonna leave my like decommissioned battle commando droid from the Clone Wars, or that I happen to have, like.
That's right. No, Jalen's got that real...
And he's awesome.
Yeah, he's got that real great vibe. He, like, you know, comes up to you and he's all like, you know, you got some real talent there, kid. You just got to sign up with me and let me show you the way to get this done right. So I really enjoyed him. And then, yes, ND5, I guess you guys can reveal the end story later, but is he the one character that ends up being like a real bro in this? Like, is he the one good guy that really comes through for you in the end?
Once you get through some restraining bolt issues, yeah, for sure.
Yes. Indy 5 is such a bro. I love Indy 5. There was some like pretty dramatic stuff that happens with him in the story that actually I thought was really effective. Like,
so Austin, to Adam's question, what is Indy 5? He's a battle droid?
Yeah, he's a commando droid, I believe. A battle commando, right, Adam? That sounds right.
Yeah, so you played Star Wars or Jedi Survivor, the ones that were like really agile and would flip around a lot.
Yeah.
Now, Indy 5 doesn't do any of that, but he does look exactly like that. So,
well, he's like got a huge like gash on his chest and everything. Like, he's been through some stuff. True. He's been through the ringer.
It is a while since the Clone Wars, so he is missing some parts.
He's not as nimble as he used to be, you know.
the next one's the droid smith is who you're supposed to recruit, I believe. And that ends up being Gadeek, who is like Kay's childhood friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, who like doesn't get mentioned at all in the tutorial and the preamble. So like you meet him for the first time on Akiva, but this is like Kay's old friend.
I was reading, preparing for this, writing these notes, whatever I was reading said that like, oh, when they were young, a job went wrong and they got captured and Kay managed to escape, but like Gadeek, in order to avoid imprisonment, joined the Empire. I was like, was that in the game, or did this person like read a book? Like, where did this?
I think it was in like his codex entry, the thing you never opened. So,
and I couldn't figure out if Gadeek felt as if she had like betrayed him all those years ago, because he's a little standoffish at first, and then like the droid he's fixing tries to kill her, but that doesn't really seem like he was trying to make it do that. And I just wasn't really sure where that relationship stood, but it must have been good enough because he joins the group.
I do love seeing Protocol Joy just like go Wild West on your ass for a minute. That was fun.
That was cool.
Then you're going for a heavy weapons expert. Got to have the muscle on the heist. And I can't remember who you originally go to get, but you eventually end up just recruiting that Twilight Rebel from the very beginning that was there instead of Treasure in Sleero's vault.
Boo.
And so he becomes your heavy weapons guy for the final heist.
Oh, so it's not, is her name Vale? It's not the bounty hunter who's been chasing you?
No, she does come into play, though.
Yeah, she does have a moment. There is some build up with her on Tatooine that does pay off, I think, in a pretty satisfying way.
Yeah, that was some real good bonding, fighting off ATSTs together or whatever.
So many Imperials. Oh my god.
That was the first time where I started to stop fearing the Empire. I was like, bring me more.
They're like, yeah, these guys kind of suck now. Wait a second.
The whole Jabba's Palace sequence, I think, is probably my high point of the game outside of the final mission. I really enjoyed that whole part.
Yeah, Jabba's Palace is so good. Like, losing Nyx, having to rely on just, like, raw stealth instead of using all your little, like,
Nyx vision.
Nyx vision, yeah, there we go. I really liked that, and I love being immersed in Jabba's Palace. Like, it felt so, like, authentically Jabba's Palace. Like, being able to, like, walk around through the vents and seeing, like, Boba Fett hanging out was like, whoa, that's Boba Fett. Like...
That was a great cameo. That was a really good way to do a cameo, was to see him just like through one of the vents there, because Han Solo's hanging up in the wall. That's the time.
Also, really cool to see Han Solo up on the wall
when
you walk in. It was like I know what this is about. Like, I understand where we're at.
But Kay's just like, wow, rough day for this guy, or whatever. She really doesn't know.
Right? Yeah, it's like, who's that?
Which is so cool because like. Obviously, the audience is looking at Han as like, whoa, like this is such an important figure in Star Wars, and Kay's just like, yeah, that's
Kay's
fucking
like,
guy.
Dumbass. You're gonna live this life, you can't get caught.
And that it's kind of cool because the other time we see Carbonite in this game is when that like drug lord on Akiva or whatever, the smuggler on Akiva.
Oh, the table.
Yeah, has like melted his brother into Carbonite and uses him as a table. Like, that's some twisted stuff, dude.
That's some Scarface bullshit right there, right?
Yeah, this game isn't like an overly adult game, but it's definitely not afraid to do little things like that now and again,
And I think that's where it really shines is in a lot of those smaller details and a lot of those like smaller touches of like it keeps the tone of the like Star Wars smugglers are never super violent and like overly aggressive. Like they were always kind of dashing rogue type style. Like Han Solo's always kind of the roguish, like impish charm kind of thing. And I think the game keeps that tone for most of its Outlaws. It never goes like super dark and violent, but it definitely has some little touches that I really liked.
I don't know. Haas was a pretty big piece of shit, but he got eaten, so...
I hated that guy. How dare he touch Nyx like that? Oof.
Yeah. Talk about blind range.
Boils my blood.
Yeah. It's a really good hook into breaking into Jabba's palace. Not to take us back, but like, oh man, those Gamorrean battle axes. I mean, like in the movies, they're just like kind of there, right? You're like, oh, okay, those guys have battle axes. All right, if you try and stealth take one of those guys down and don't realize that they're heavy enemies, they will just cut your fucking head off.
Oh man, dude, those axes are intense.
They one-shot you. I was like, no, I totally got this guy. And then he didn't drop after I punched him, and he turned around and literally cut my head off. It was ridiculous.
That was most of my deaths in this game, was trying to backstab a droid and then remembering I couldn't do that yet. And it's like,
It's like, oh no. Something we haven't talked about at all, and I think now might be a good time to talk about it as we're kind of rounding out a lot of the mechanic stuff, is a lot of the mini games in this game are pretty fun. Like, particularly, I think the highlight is obviously Sabacc. I think is the mini game that stands out the most.
Sabacc's a lot of fun.
It's really cool. I like, what's the card game in KOTOR? Pazak, right?
Pazak. Yeah, that's right.
I liked Pazak back in the day. It's basically just like 21, but I thought Sabacc was like a kind of a cool twist on poker, and what I really liked about it was the ability to cheat at it every single time if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Like, you never have to legitimately play Sabacc.
So cheating is just winning.
Like, you never have to legitimately play Sabacc if you don't want to.
It's actually very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just random chance if you don't cheat. And so, playing Sabacc is really doing the cheating mechanics all the time. And that is a lot of fun.
I just love that, like, of course, you're an outlaw. Like, you're not going to play by the rules. Like, why would you?
No, you'd be stupid.
Right.
Like, you're not an idiot. You're here to clean these morons out.
And Nyx is like your perfect little gateway to going peek over people's shoulders, and then like eventually you can get like magnetic dice that you can basically rig the dice for all of the can't remember the name of the card, but the imposters.
The card that lets you get a random value with the dice roll.
Yeah, so like you can always manipulate that dice roll to be the card you need, or you could get the double draw thing that Lando teaches you, where you could draw like 2 cards instead of 1. Like, all those little cheats are so cool. It's like, why would I not use those all the time?
And they all fit the theme of like a smuggler rigging a game of chance, right? Like, it's really nice.
Right.
Yeah, right. You're an outlaw. You're not here to gamble. Yeah. That's ridiculous. Why would you let the house win?
Right. We're an outlaw.
Right. So is Lando at the end of like the high stake Sabacc game quest or whatever?
I believe
it starts off with the head jar guy.
Yeah, okay. Basically, he becomes one of your experts, and he teaches you like how to.
Oh.
There's actually a cool mission. With Lando where like he needs some help with something, and
he's
like,
on a Kiva.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You're like trying to recover something for him, and it turns out that you're actually like helping the rebels. And Kay's like, oh, like wouldn't have expected you to be a rebel. Like, it's kind of a cool little mission where you kind of see where Lando's headspace is at, where he's being kind of an outlaw to the people around him. He's fitting his like gambler, smuggler persona, but you actually are working with the rebels when you're helping Lando, which is kind of cool, I thought.
Yeah, no, that is super cool. And now I'm sad he's the one expert I haven't finished unlocking yet.
Yeah.
This game is set up in the wrong order. All right. So many things that happen on a Kiva need to happen earlier.
You're like, Lando's in this game? Like, God damn it.
I mean, so whatever subscription I have gets you some of like the cosmetics or whatever. And so like the like Sabacc card shark outfit is just Lando's digs.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so obviously he's in this game, but when is it going to happen? And the answer for me is apparently at the
about
end.
the one thing you haven't done yet.
Right. The one expert I haven't done.
I almost wonder if they would have been better off, because it's clear that they're like, oh, after you beat the final mission, you can do all of this open world stuff. Maybe save some of that to where you can't do it until after the final mission, and that might help stop people from spending 30 hours like wasting. I mean, I'm wasting their time. If it's fun, it's fun. But I often wonder if some of that stuff that can be done afterwards maybe should just be saved for afterwards. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's ever tried to have like the climax of a game be in the middle of it and then just like let you, I don't know, kind of do more content that gets you to repeat the good parts of the game. I don't know. That would require the developer to understand what the good parts of their game are before they release it, which is probably not something that they're great at figuring out. So yeah, I don't know, Adam, because I agree with you.
Now, some of the other mini games you have. Every game of this sort has to have a lock-picking minigame, and going into it, I was just like, God damn it, not another one. But I actually really ended up liking this because it's basically based around like a rhythmic sequence of sounds. Now, I've never been much of a musician. I literally worked in the library in 5th grade instead of playing in the band. But
oh yeah,
I did discover through Guitar Hero in high school that I have some decent sense of rhythm. So
I'm about to say, you play guitar,
well,
don't lie.
I do now.
he presses buttons real good.
But like most of my life, you know, I haven't really been musically inclined. But I liked this because I could literally do it with my eyes closed. And it was just a nice little break from, you know, having the bright suns of Tatooine in my eyes. But, you know, nothing really like all that special about it other than they decided to make it kind of a sound-based thing instead of a visual-based thing, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, I thought it was really good, the lockpicking minigame. Not because it's a super novel mechanic again, but because it's so Star Wars, right? Like, you are using your data spike to spike the little security system. It's what R2 does all throughout the original trilogy when he's using his little cylindrical thing to, like, talk to the computers and stuff. And that's what you're doing. And it's just a rhythm game where you match the pattern of lights that show up. And you do it all the time.
It's very authentically Star Wars.
Yeah. Not to mention there's this great detail where Kay keeps her data spike in her hair. It's part of her little ponytail. She pulls it out every time. I love it.
Adam, I just want to point out here in your notes, it says, single best lockpicking minigame in video games. Don't at me. So I mean, if you want to add Adam,
I still think that's true. It's not exactly like high praise though, right? Like King of Shit Mountain or whatever.
You mean you don't think Skyrim is the pinnacle of lockpicking?
That's the flashback I got when it first started. And I was like, please God, not one of these.
Like, oh no. I think slicing probably didn't bring you as much joy.
Once I figured out how dumb I was being with the instructions that said exactly how to play it, I did like slicing a little more. I didn't quite understand the groupings at first. I don't know why, because it says what they fucking are in the tutorial. But yeah, that's kind of cool. It's like symbol Wordle that you're playing essentially, and you get you actually get a couple of abilities once you level up your slicing that can help you with those. I don't think I ever used a single one of those the entire game.
I use the syntax sorting sometimes, but
I also use that one occasionally. Like if I would get like 3 yellows, I was like, all right, well, let's just sort all these in the right spot.
It just took more time than spamming them, and there's 0 consequences for failing it. So, you know.
Oh, really?
Other than less money.
You don't get the bonus money, yeah. But you cannot actually fail the lockpicking. You cannot actually fail the slicing.
Slicing might have been my primary form of income. I don't think I failed.
Once I figured out how it worked, I didn't really fail after that because it's really not that hard. It's just for some reason I didn't understand what the blue lines meant. But yeah, it is
a little like random, just like you're just kind of like guessing a little bit at a certain point. But I thought it was fun enough.
Yeah, there's a simple strategy to it. My complaint would be like, it's not so simple that you can kind of zone out and ignore it, but it's also it's not hard, like at all, right? So it's just kind of boring to do after a while. They never, I don't know, I haven't unlocked the 3rd subroutine or whatever, but it would be nice if at some point I just didn't have to play the minigame anymore as opposed to play it 3,000 times.
Also true.
Yeah, level 3 slicing should just be, you press a button and you slice it.
Yeah, you fucking unlock it now. But I still like the aesthetic of it. It felt very Star Wars, right down to the symbols and the little view screen you like pick up and put in front of the computer or whatever. It was all very nice.
It all really is very Star Warsy, right? And another one of the mini games is essentially horse racing. I think they're called Falthiers, maybe.
Farthiers, whatever they ride again in The Last Jedi. But
I forgot how much of this shit is from the sequels because I actually liked it this time around. So
yeah,
because it actually works and like makes sense in context.
Wow, I really liked that one because the results are like they're fixed. It's always going to be a certain one, right? It's not random, and you can find this out by just finding data pads littered around that say like, hey, it turns out the heaviest one is like going to win next time. Or an Imperial officer saying, oh, we found that like the fastest one is juicing and he's going to win, right? Like, so you have these little hints scattered around that actually allow you to just pick the winner. And it goes back into that thing of you're a smuggler. Why would you play fair, right?
Right. Like find those hints.
Oh, I missed these hints. I never figured out how to horse bet properly. I was like, this seems dumb. I can't rig this. I'm going to go do something else. Good job, Adam.
There is one quest I remember that kind of introduces you to the idea. Again, I feel like it's kind of late in the game, or at least I found it kind of late.
Is this part of Lando's quests?
I don't think so.
No, I think it's like a contract you can take for the brother guy who has the carbonite brother table.
Oh, Surat. So still on Akiva, again, something I did far too late, apparently.
I just found the data pads lying around a few places, so I don't know.
Oh, I'm probably just blind then. But
I mean,
What did you guys, speaking of data pads, to get really specific for a second, what did you guys think of the animation when you read a data pad where it shows you the text in Galactic Basic characters and then prints it in English?
I always appreciate that in Star Wars because I'd like the constant reminder that English isn't actually a thing.
Right, like that's not actually a language. Yeah, like
that's just one of the details that I thought was like, yes, please do this. I realize it takes a couple seconds to load or whatever, but I still love it.
If that's
that's
a disguised loading screen, I'll take it all day, right? Like it's
yeah. I was gonna say I never did the Nick's food thing.
You didn't get any street food?
No, I never got a single. I don't know why. I was just like, I don't need to eat. It's fine.
Street food is so good.
So it gives Nyx these abilities. I can't say I ever saw them actually trigger one time in my entire game. Maybe the one where I think it like tosses away grenades that land near you. But
yeah, so it gives you charms, and you have to equip them on him.
Yeah. I think there was another one I tried that was like, he's more ferocious in combat. I don't know what that was about. No, he's not.
Like a liar.
And just to explain, charms are just these little power-ups that you can equip, like passive things ranging from a little more health to a little more headshot damage, better stealth, whatever. And, you only get so many slots, but you'll unlock more slots throughout the game.
So I did use the one that let him do a multi-distract for a little while, so it like cuts the distance.
I think that was probably the best one.
Yeah, I never saw any of this because I never did street food. I don't know why. I didn't have a good reason. I was like, I don't need this, whatever.
It was just like a very charming scene where she like cooks the food with Nyx. It's kind of like a Korean barbecue style thing almost. You have to like do something at your table to make the food. And it's just like a QTE that you navigate through. I mean, it's all right.
Okay.
It's charming and it feels like Star Wars.
It's very cute, yeah.
That's kind of how I felt about the arcade machines too. Like they're charming, they're fun. I did the pod racing one for sure. That
there's a pod racing one.
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, okay, all right. I only played the shooter one.
Is it technically Swoop? Maybe is it kind of like?
Yeah, it felt very similar to the KOTOR mini game from back in the day, but like on an arcade machine, which I liked. I thought was fun and like cool. It's like okay, there's little arcade machines around. That's fun.
I might go try that.
Is that the last mini game?
I think so.
Okay, so we can get back to recruiting the crew here.
Wait, have we talked enough about Sabak?
Yeah, I thought we finished recruiting the crew.
No, my transition should have been, speaking of slicing, the last member of the crew, you got to get a slicer, because of course you do, right? This is the equivalent of like Rihanna in Ocean's 13 or whatever the hell, right? You're
what a pull.
You're magical computer expert. So it turns out, in this game, her mother, Kay's mother, has a little bit of a reputation, left Kay when she was little. You meet a couple people who bring her up once or twice and, they're like, oh, Rico was so this and that. And Kay's like, no, she wasn't. And then you get back to the ship with your crew and she's just like standing outside of it because Jalen has hired her. And of course, like Kay is really reluctant about this whole thing. And Rico's trying to play it all cool. Like, oh, I've like missed you this and this. And Kay's like, no, like none of that. We have a job to do. Like, let's just get the job done. But it's Star Wars. So, of course, over the last mission in the game, or last three missions, I guess, last sequence, their relationship kind of mends as they go through the fire together. And, it's charming. As George Lucas said, it's a story about families and fatherhood. And
So wait, the heist is a mother-daughter bonding scenario is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, kind of, largely.
Nothing like repairing your relationship with your child by ripping off the richest man in the galaxy.
And if only it was that simple, right? Because everything goes wrong, like immediately, of course.
Always, every heist ever.
So you decide to go. You have to like go on Sliro's ship and like steal his key to get into his vault or something, right? That's the story. But surprise, surprise, that's not what's in the vault. And or not on the ship. Like I don't remember the sequence of events, but it's just another switcheroo where it's like, oh, instead of there being a treasure, it's actually a codex with all of the information that Sliro knows about the Empire, right?
Okay.
And of course, like the rebels want it, and Vale wants it, and then like it's just Austin. Maybe you can walk through a little bit more of this.
Yeah, I definitely remember going on the ship, and you're trying to steal something from Sleero's like room, and I think you do get that piece in that like ship stealing mission, but like Sleero's there and he's not supposed to be, and like he's about to catch you, and you're like sneaking through the vents, but like you find a thing that'll let you break into his vault on Kanto, and then you do this little mission, or like you do this little like bar scene where everybody's hanging out in the bar in Kanto Bight, and you get to like talk to the crew one last time before going on the it feels very I'm trying to think of like a Mass Effect comparison, because it felt very Mass Effect-y, like very like
the Citadel DLC.
Kind of like Citadel, but in the right tone.
There's no like weird jokes here. Just
a lot less sexual tension, that kind of thing.
Listen, I love the Citadel DLC. I will always defend Citadel, but I can acknowledge the tonal oddness of it. This scene definitely doesn't feel that way. Like there's this nice moment where you get to kind of talk to everybody, and you all like share a drink and have this one last moment before going on the heist, and then you do break into Sleero's vault. But when you get there, you think you're stealing treasure, but you're actually not. You're stealing a codex, but it's actually all been a trap, because Sleero like knows that you're coming, and he set this trap for you where he just like keeps sending people in to attack you, and then him and Vale show up, and that's when Vale betrays him and like sides with you, which is kind of the payoff for that earlier moment on Tatooine.
Yeah, but she doesn't kill him, because they have to leave that to someone else.
Yeah, it's weird that she doesn't kill him.
She like knocks him out.
I don't really fully understand.
I think they say something about like, no, we can't kill an ISB director. That would bring like way too much heat to us or something.
And that makes sense if that's the reason. That does make sense.
I'll buy that.
And then you do get off the planet with the codex, and that's when you bring it to Jalen, right? And that's when like the next double cross happens.
Yeah.
So who is Jalen actually?
So it turns out he's Sleero's brother.
I had him pegged as his partner. Okay,
because it's all about family.
Yeah,
remember, it's all about family.
It always is. This is just the Fast and Furious 17 right here in space.
Vin Diesel is.
Have they gone to space yet in Fast and Furious? I'm sure they have.
Yes, they have. They literally fly a car into space. I saw that one.
Okay, well, this is where they ended up. Toshar. But I guess what ends up happening is he reveals all this, and it turns out that Sleero had like tried to have most of his family killed way back in the day. I think to like take over the family business or something. I can't quite remember what the deal was, but he was using ND5 to do it, and Jalen actually was able to like reprogram ND5 when it came to kill him, and he's been like waiting to turn ND5 on Sleero all these years.
Oh, that's heavy.
And then he does.
He does.
But he also betrays Kay in the process, and like locks her in the ship essentially while he goes to do this, and like doesn't kill her, but like locks her away. But her mom like leaves a tracker on her, because her mom's like still looking out for her.
That's what the charm was.
Yeah, the little coin that she leaves her.
Yes, yeah. So it's like a tracker, and the rest of the crew comes and finds you and helps like break you out, and then you go and you rescue ND5 from Jalen, who has now killed Sleero
through ND5.
Right, you infiltrate. You basically like put on stormtrooper armor and infiltrate the Empire. Yeah, you basically like infiltrate this like major capital ship as a stormtrooper, and get up there where Jalen is like going to betray Sleero. Sorry, I was like, these names. When Jalen goes to betray Sleero, you're like there, and you then rescue ND5 from Jalen. And well,
he's like trying to kill you, right? So you have to basically fight him in this kind of boss battle.
Yeah, there's like a little like kind of semi-boss battle with ND5 where
trying to get some ion charge to hit his restraining bolt.
Right, you're like hiding from him as he's like hunting you down, like Jason style.
Yeah. It's actually kind of cool.
You're like it's a cool fight because like he's pretty tough, and he will like insta kill you when he finds you, basically.
So this boss battle is better than the Rancor fight, you would say?
Oh God, yeah.
I thought so.
I thought the Rancor fight was terrible.
Yeah, I'm not excited about boss battles in this game because that Rancor fight was dumb.
As much as I like the like whole sequence with the Rancor and like seeing the Rancor, the actual fight with the Rancor is freaking terrible.
I loved everything up until I had to fight the stupid thing. It was kind of silly.
I think the ND5 boss fight is a lot more engaging than that.
I think these companies have finally figured out that these games don't lend themselves to like one big bad guy boss at the end that you fight directly. And so this game instead just has like a really combat heavy final like level, and then it culminates with like this sort of stealth tactical thing that you do against ND5. It honestly feels a lot like the almost like the Mr. Freeze fight in Batman. I don't know if you ever played.
I was about to compare it to the Mr. Freeze fight,
Yeah, so I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the more appealing moments to me as far as like boss battles go. I think it's the best example of it in this game, and there's not many, but like this is the best version of it.
It's no Human Reaper, but yeah, you know, it's
once you free ND5 of his restraining bolt, he kills Jalen, yes. Right? Yeah, so then ND5 turns on Jalen, kills Jalen, and basically everybody's like happy ever after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, except for Jalen, who's now dead. But
then Slero, who's dead, and
yeah, everyone's dead. That's bad in this. Like Slero and Jaden both meet villains. So
all of the thieves with a heart of gold went out.
Yes, exactly. And then like there is this one little sequence where like you're escaping with the Codex because you get the Codex from Jalen, and the Imperials are after you and they're about to like attack Akiva, like the rebel base on Akiva, and you have like a moment where Kay chooses to help the rebellion. Not a full rebel, but she chooses to like help stop the Empire from killing this like rebel faction, and she actually calls on whichever faction that you're like most united with at the time, which is kind of cool. It doesn't really change anything, like it's just a different cutscene and character that pops up to help you. But
it's not even really a different cutscene. It's like a little hologram comes up in her ship, and that is what's different. And it's like 4 seconds of voice line, but it does depend on your reputation. That's true.
It's a nice little moment to like be like, oh, okay, I sided with this faction the whole time, and now they are helping me out in the end. Okay,
or just the last thing I happened to do before the. Pretty sure I had the Shiga at the end, and they were not who I had it with most of the game. Like
that's also fair. It's really just whichever one you have the most at the moment. But
and then so. The very final sequence of gameplay, though, is space combat, right? Because you've escaped from the ISB ship or whatever it is, and you have to like kill a bunch of TIE fighters and stuff in a big final battle, and then everyone goes their merry way afterwards, except ND5, who stays as Kay's buddy forever.
Aw.
Yeah. And honestly, I thought the ending was pretty strong from a story and gameplay. Yeah. Like I think they give you a lot of different gameplay mechanics throughout the end sequences. Like you kind of get a taste of everything, you know, more stealth gameplay, more straight up like shooting, you know, gunfights, and then a little bit of space combat. And the story has some good twists and turns, I think, that work pretty effectively.
Does the storyline, I don't know, leave enough for a sequel storyline, or do we think that's not a narrative possibility?
I mean, they could always go with like a totally new story involving Kay and ND5, right? Because they're both very much still like around and kicking. And oh yeah, there's also a post-credit scene where Kay's like disguised as an Imperial officer, and she walks into a holding cell or a interrogation room, and it's Rico at this table, and she's basically just like, you know, using in a very ham-fisted way, just like, wow, like how the great slicer. Rico, how could I possibly locate you? Oh, it must be like this coin thing that led me right to you or whatever. And it's like, okay. Like someone should have given this another writing class, but it's cool because it does end on a note of like, you can tell that their relationship has been mended enough to where Kay is not just going to leave her stranded in an Imperial facility.
Right. I definitely think there's room for a potential sequel. I am curious, based on sales numbers and things that have been said, if they would ever do one.
Yeah, so that's the other meta conversation here. Is this was what Ubisoft's quadruple A entry into the Star Wars?
No.
That was
Skull and Bones was quadruple A.
Quadruple. The one the government of Singapore funded 14 years ago. Yeah, that was their.
Oh my god.
Okay. This is only a triple A game from them? They're not.
I think this is only triple A. This is not quadruple.
I saw some weirdos say quad A about this game, but I've never seen Ubisoft say anything about that. I think they were mixing.
I've seen that headline a lot, and so I've gotten confused if like Ubisoft is just saying like, well, all our games are quadruple A now. But it sounds like that's just more slander and ridiculousness from silly people.
From the internet that seems to hate this game for reasons I can't understand. Yeah.
I did think it was interesting that a lot of the characters in this game, especially early on, at least the way they have you play it, are women, right? Like you...
No, there's a lot, yeah.
You're working for the Shiga clan. You have Ankh.
There's that Mon Cal lady in the cantina.
Yeah, I totally forgot about Donka. Donka, that's her name, right?
She's cool, yeah.
Which is a tie into the Bad Batch, like a TV series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she sets up the rogue clones with their jobs when they're first on the run from the Empire. So that is not the first time we've seen her.
And I hate to keep bringing this back to like stupid internet forum posts, but I saw one today where someone was basically talking about like, oh yeah, these companies are realizing after all of these failures like Concord and Outlaws and Acolyte that like people don't want these like progressive politics in their games, blah, blah, blah. And someone else was saying, well, that doesn't seem like the right lessons because a lot of these things were just mediocre, which I don't necessarily agree with. But what are you even fucking talking about? Progressive politics, like the woman's black? Like, I truly don't understand what you're actually alluding to.
Adam, stormtroopers should never be female.
I guess so, man.
This is woke.
Listen, any women and it's woke. Like, unless the woman is specifically designed to be sexually objectified by freaking...
Right, hot girls only, please.
Like,
so,
Right.
Some other non-gender-based criticisms I saw were that people were saying that the facial animations were kind of a downgrade over previous games. And I looked at some comparisons, and it does seem like maybe a little bit, but personally, I don't care about that. I mean, Tactical Breach Wizards is my game of the year, and those characters don't really have faces. So, like, it just doesn't bother me at all. I'd much rather them have done what they did, which is, I think, put those resources into the environment designs, because, I mean, all about that is just fucking flawless, right?
Oh my god, every environment is so pretty. Like, there's so many moments where you could just stop and take a screenshot and it'd be like, yeah, that's freaking gorgeous.
I got literal chills the first time going into Miragana on Tashara, and like the stormtrooper asks you for your identification, and I was like, oh my god, this is so cool.
Yeah, there's so many like Star Warsy bits, and for people to complain about facial animation, it's just like, really? Like, to me, it's not that bad. Like, there's never a moment that took me out. I will say there were a couple bugs that took me out of things. We didn't really talk about a lot of the bug problems, and I don't know if you guys had a ton of them, but I had some weird stuff. Like, there's a really emotional scene with Indy 5 where like he is basically like breaking down, and like on his last legs, you have to go like find a like another core for him so you can like keep him alive. And I had that like trigger early somehow, and like it was like freaking out where like he was like locked in this animation of like dying, but I was actually just like doing a completely different like random mission, and like he's like dying and like spazzing out and like freaking out, and meanwhile like I'm just doing like a regular story mission, or like a regular like side mission. I'm like, what is going on? Like it really was jarring.
Yeah, there are a lot of like trigger based bugs, and sort of like the kind of thing where it's just difficult to I don't know. I guess it reminds you that it is like a video game engine, and these are all trigger based like things, and the voice lines happen when you do certain events. I've just started that quest line, Austin, and what really took me out of it is it triggers like after you recruit Gadeek, and the first time I think you go land somewhere, and I landed immediately back on Akiva for the veteran quest, which is the somewhat emotional thing where like ND5 helps you send off a droid commander from the Clone Wars who's like unit had to finish their last mission. So he just started to break down in my game, and then he's totally fine, and we're doing this like very emotional quest chain, and I'm like, what?
It is really strange. I also had a couple issues with like checkpoints being weird. I think that's just part of the game. I think that's just checkpoints are freaking weird in this game.
What has thrown me off is that it seems they checkpoint you a lot and they save what has happened in the game, but your character will like load back into the game in like different places, like in the closest sort of spawn point. So like I spawned back in like a Surat's desk with the carbonite table one time, even though I knew I had just spent like 2 hours running around that city. And it was just, that was like the closest thing spawn point or something. It got me really confused.
Yeah, there were times where like I would be in a mission and it would spawn me in a better position than where I died. Like I didn't know where to go, and like I was like struggling to figure it out.
Yeah,
it would like spawn me like forward in the mission. I was like, oh, okay. Well,
it was
great.
like, well, you're a fucking scrub, so let's just go ahead and give this one to you.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was a design choice or just like a little bit of a glitch, because I really hate when that happens, because like no, I wanted to beat it. Like, what are you doing?
Yep. Yeah,
right. Yeah. Like I want to figure it out. Like I don't want to just be put where I need to be.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's all just like sort of flaws in the general game engine. And it's hard to make an open world game like this. I will give them that.
Nothing in it was so like game breaking and so problematic that it took me like completely out of the game or made me like super frustrated. But it was just something I noticed that happened a fair amount to me. And I there was definitely like there was this one specific mission on Tatooine where you go through like a crate dragon cave to find like the jewel. And I found that cave before actually triggering the mission, explored the whole thing, like did a bunch of cool stuff in there, and then I found the mission. I had to do all of it all over again. It was like,
I had that happen to me several times on Tashara with some different bandit camps, and probably at least once on like a Kiva, because I decided to run around the water world before getting the water upgrade. it's nitpicks like that, which is just like hard because you have to let the player explore the world, but also you can't make like a unique little set piece for every single quest in the game, right? So I don't know.
I do think the game did have some cool set pieces overall, though, in that same vein. Like, I thought the Crate Dragon Cave was cool. I thought going through the Sarlacc.
That's nuts.
I really liked the Sarlacc.
Like, fighting the double mouth Sarlacc thing going on was really cool. Like, digging into the Sarlacc was dope.
I did struggle with the speeder throughout the game. Adam, did you have some thoughts on the speeder?
Well, I really couldn't stand the fact that you couldn't really fight on it normally. But I liked riding around on it, especially once you get the boost and the jump. I felt it was a lot of fun because if you, like, it was really easy to clip rocks and fly off. But if you jumped, you could just use any of them as like a ramp instead. So that kind of solved that problem.
I never got good at the jumping. I spent a lot of time on my face. So.
Oh yeah, basically, like if you're coming up on anything resembling a hill, just jump first, and you'll fucking soar through the air on your bike instead of off of it. So.
Yeah, I definitely had to do that a couple of times. I do think I agree that some of those rocks, like, you should be able to glide over that, but no, it's going to send you hurtling 30 feet and, like, break your face. And that was kind of annoying.
A lot of fence posts are breakable, but there's one sign outside of a village on Akiva that is not breakable.
You sound intimately familiar with this one.
Yeah.
Sounds like you found that out the hard way.
So yeah, I really liked this. I really liked driving around on the speeder on Tashara in like the big open parts of it. Like it looks beautiful as you ride the speeder across like the open savanna. And that's probably why I like Tatooine the most, because it was the most open of the open world planets, because it's just a desert, right? So you can go out across the desert, and it's really easy to navigate. But yes, between not being able to shoot by default off of the speeder and just some of my difficulty like steering it, I didn't always love that part, and even I struggled with lots of the points of interest around the different open world planets, right? There's usually like one or two ways to actually like get into the camps or get into the bases or whatever, and I struggled to like drive there on my speeder but drive up to the right part of it. Hold on, let's make sure that I'm not a complete fucking moron. There's no mini map in this game, right?
No, it's just the
right.
It's just the bar at the top.
The compass and then the pause map, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need a mini map. The number of times that I drive for like 20 seconds on my speeder and then open the map and then drive 20 seconds and then open the map.
To your point about like getting to the wrong part of the cliff or whatever on your speeder, there was a section where like I was trying to get in this damn rock formation like over and over. I finally get up there, I have to go through these stupid wind tunnels, and then it's like a wall I can't blow up because I don't have the charged blaster thing. And that was the moment I stopped doing every piece of side content and just finished the game, because I had spent like 30 minutes trying to get to this fucking point of interest only to not be able to get it, and I was just over it at that point.
Yeah.
Speaking of some like weird navigation stuff, I didn't really like the holodisk tracker.
Oh, that was
the
ass.
first one.
I did the one you were required to do, and then I never went back to it.
I like tried to do other ones, and I felt like they were not very good at giving you the right cues to actually follow.
Did you figure out how the little sound echolocation actually works? Like,
no, because it doesn't.
Right.
The answer is it doesn't work.
It's fucking stupid. What it is that you have to point your mouse view towards like the right direction. So it beeps faster when you're pointing like your camera view directly at whatever the objective is.
Not your proximity.
But not when you're actually close to it.
Right. It doesn't mean that you're close to it.
That is terrible.
Yeah. So I think I get what they were going for. It's like you're triangulating a signal, right? So you have to point the device in the direction of the signal. But it doesn't translate at all into like what are you actually supposed to do in the world. It's very confusing. It's not really fun. And then like after doing the required one, you don't really get anything for it. And I was like, I don't give two shits about this anymore.
Yeah, I imagine if you like find them all, you probably get some cool piece of equipment, but like whatever. The equipment doesn't make that much of a difference.
No, it doesn't. And a lot of the times when I went out of my way, at least in space or even on the ground, I got a paint job. And I'm like, what is with these games? And like refusing to reward me with like real stuff when I go out of my way. Give me some credits, damn it. Or like, I don't know.
You don't want a charm for charms were good things. You don't want like something to hang from the windshield of your faux Millennium Falcon or whatever.
Yeah.
No. Oh my God, the dice. Okay, that is the one piece of sequel content they tried to put in the game, like the little dice from The Last Jedi or whatever, or one of the trinkets.
like Luke's dice or whatever. Yeah.
Han's dice in the Millennium Falcon.
Right.
I saw that and I was like, you get right the fuck out of here with that. Okay, this is some bullshit. No one cares.
I was just going to mention, like, another thing that I really rarely used, I will say, until the end, there were some big firefights at the end. I got more use out of it. But the Deadeye quick draw kill target thing, like...
The bullet time?
Half the time I went to use it, it was just like, suddenly a guy that was just shooting at me now is behind a fucking rock or a tree or his damn shield.
Yeah.
And it was the worst on the speeder, because I swear I would be, like, directly trailed by 3 guys, turn it on, turn around. 2 of them weren't targetable anymore. And if you try to cancel it, you still lose all the energy. Or maybe you lose, like, half of it. So you may as well just shoot one of them. And then there's also a charm I got halfway through the game that when it's full, you do more damage. I just completely stopped using it after that.
Oh, you just do. I see. Okay.
I also didn't really love the like Deadeye mechanic or whatever it was. Like I used it a couple times and I thought it was okay, but I felt very similarly where a lot of the times you would go to target people and they're just not targetable anymore, and it's like, well, what's the point of this? Like,
yeah, they're like behind cover or something. Austin, did you get the upgrades for the bullet time adrenaline thing?
I did.
Okay.
I did get the upgrades. I got some of them. I didn't necessarily get every single one of them. I did get the one where you could target like 5 people or whatever, but I was like never in a situation to do that.
I still got pretty good usage out of it, but that could be because like I, once I fucked up the stealth and went loud, I was like, whatever, let's do this, y'all.
Right. Your play style probably leaned more into using that more than me or Adams did.
I had a really fun fight where, I don't know, there's some pike base on Tashara that's kind of out in the open when there's way too many of them. It's like one of these little mini outposts. But there's like 15 guys around this one homestead, and it's just like, why? So I was gonna try and meticulously break my way in, and then I fucked up on the very first guy I took down, and they all saw me, and rockets started coming at my face, and I was like, all right, fine. That was the one time I managed to like mark 6 targets in like every direction and gun them down, and that felt amazing. But to your point, like as often as I got good rounds off, I also got, there's 3 dudes and they're all in cover and I can't use it, and I just wasted it. So,
Austin, I want you to tell me what your feelings are on the coolest thing in every video game, grappling hooks.
All right, so listen, I love grappling hooks. I think every game is better with a grappling hook, except for maybe this game.
Here's my rule. If you can replace the grappling hook with a ladder, why do you have a grappling hook?
Hey, you swing on it sometimes.
You do. So there's a swing across the gap, and then there's the climb up to the thing. And it's really just like, you could have replaced all the climb up to the things with the retractable ladders that also exist in the game, and nothing would have changed. So
you know what fucking drives me nuts, though? The key bindings, depending on if you're just repelling versus if you're swinging, they were different on the keyboard. Sometimes pressing C meant slowly descend, and other times it meant instantly detach.
They weren't much better on controller, but that sounds particularly bad.
They were not. And really, like, it's not that I mind swinging on a grappling hook.
Sure.
But it didn't feel good to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the animation felt clunky to me. Like, it just felt really, like... It didn't feel as smooth as some other games that I've had grappling hooks. It just felt like it was like, here's a little cinematic thing we have to do because you need to swing on a grappling hook because it's cool in video games.
It's an adventure game. Come on.
But it just didn't feel good. Like, I think back to something like Uncharted 4, which I think like nailed grappling hooks, and this game just never felt as good as that.
No, not at all.
So,
I wrote it off early on in the game on Tashara. You have to like sneak through the Pike district, right? And there's like a little firefight at the end, and you like kind of like barely escape. And you like kind of go around the back of the city, and there's a couple of points where like your final getaway moment is using your grappling hook and swinging across a small chasm. And I haven't died this whole time. I've done the whole thing flawlessly. It's been awesome. It's super fun. And I swing across the first chasm and it's fine. And like the music's still pumping. I'm like, well, it doesn't feel too intense. There's no one around. And I go to swing across the second one and I fuck it up and I fall into the abyss. And it's just like days dead. I'm like, okay. This is the most anticlimactic thing. Why is it was very dumb. What is y'all's? What do you think y'all's stormtrooper body count is?
Oh God, I don't know. Mine could probably be measured in the. Well, I guess I did kill a lot stealthily toward the end, so I'm not.
Well, let's say stealth-wise, I killed a lot of stormtroopers. But...
So you could definitely measure in the double digits for blaster fire, but.
Okay. You have conked hundreds of stormtroopers on the head through their helmet, but only blasted a few.
Yeah, you can just punch them in their face armor and they fall unconscious. Which, I mean, it wasn't really like super immersion break or anything for me. I didn't care that much, but it did sometimes look silly that you would just walk up to like a fully armored soldier and just like punch them. And they were done.
I guess that armor is total garbage.
But Adam, if you listen to the internet, that's the worst possible thing that this game possibly could have done.
Right.
Is have punch dudes in armor because, that would never happen. And
the number of like 20-year-olds who like didn't play, video games 20 years ago the way we did. I was like, these are fun. Okay, that character model connected. She physically grabbed his arm. Beautiful.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Like the fact that this game functions is like good. Perfect.
It didn't look like WWE. So.
Yeah.
One thing I do just want to touch on real quick, though, is this game's sort of reception in its legacy? Because I have a feeling like, okay, so I can totally understand that if someone paid $70 for this game, they would feel kind of underwhelmed. There were times I felt kind of underwhelmed, and I paid $18, right? Yep. But for the most part, I thought it was a fun game, and I think that when this game is inevitably on sale for $9 with all its DLC in like 8 months, I think more people will actually play it, and I do think people will come to appreciate it. I really just think like we are at this weird part in our like gaming culture where there are just a shitload of really loud people. I say a shitload. It's not even really like a majority or anything, but just people whose like idea of engaging with video games now is to be mad about the ones they don't like on the internet instead of just fucking playing the ones they do. I don't know if it's because they're depressed or broke or what the deal is, but it's just like such a thing now. And I feel like this game really kind of fell victim to that.
Yeah, I very much agree with you. Like, I view it as just like low effort rage bait content on YouTube and TikTok and all the, video platforms these days, combined with like, what is the principal gamer demographic? Like, yeah, I think it skews like younger men, and we're getting to the point where high quality games have been around long enough that some of these kids just haven't experienced the absolute shit that came out in 2002. So
I do think you're both right, and I think the thing that is concerning to me is that reception, that negativity, like, it's easy enough to write off and be like, okay, the game is actually good, or at least, decent. At worst, it's decent, right?
Yeah.
And you can write that negative reception off, but I do think it affected sales, and I think this game is not sold to Ubisoft's expectations or even potentially Disney's expectations. And I think that's going to potentially hurt its chance of a sequel and like a continuing franchise out of this. Which I don't know if that was ever the plan or anything, but it does seem like sales numbers have come in below Ubisoft's expectations, even if I think they're okay. I think they crossed 1 million not too long ago, but like that seems to have come in well under what Ubisoft was projecting.
Yeah, I don't want to chalk it up to like the Star Wars brand being weak at the moment, even if it kind of is. I think it's just a hard market to compete in, right? Like, it's entertainment media. We have all kinds of stuff to spend our time on. And it seems like games can't really be successful unless they're like the premier experience. Like, one of the biggest highlight reels I saw was someone doing side by side Red Dead Redemption 2 with Star Wars Outlaws, and just like comparing them mechanic to mechanic, like the way the NPCs interact, your interactions with the environments, the animations and stuff. And it's like, okay, I get it. Like, a 6-year-old game looks better in these cherry-picked examples than like the latest AAA title. But every single big game that gets released can't be the best at all of the things all of the time.
Right.
Like, I don't know. We accept mediocre movies.
Right, it's like you're also comparing it to Red Dead Redemption 2,
right?
Like, which a lot of people will praise as one of the best games ever made. Right?
Exactly.
I wouldn't personally do that.
Yeah, I got bored to tears the 4 times I've tried to play it. So,
yeah, like I'm not a big fan of Rockstar personally. Like,
yeah.
I can't get into most Rockstar.
It's Grand
games.
Theft Auto without cars. What the fuck are we doing here?
Right. But a lot of people will praise that game as one of the best ever made. So it's like, it's unfair necessarily to pin every game against the best game ever made.
Right.
Like, not every game is going to be the best game ever made. That doesn't make it like inherently terrible or anything like people have been acting. And I think people have not given Outlaws a fair shot in a lot of ways.
It's the most fun I've had in an authentic Star Wars setting since Star Wars Galaxies in 2003.
So, man, what a throwback. I was just going to note that, like, I think all of that's correct, and it's just compounded by the fact that we do have this new generation of gamers that's grown up with these games that are designed that you only play them, right? It's like, wait, you guys play more than one game? What are you talking about? I spend 12 hours a day on Roblox, or Fortnite, or Minecraft, or Warzone, or Apex.
You can do both.
And there's so many people that's the way the systems are designed is that you put that money in, so why would I want to put that money anywhere else? I already have my costumes, I have my skins, I have this and that, right? And so it's just the idea of like, you really have to pull people away, not just from all these other entertainments too, the attention economy, but even like the most addictive, like cruelly designed games that are meant to just like suck up all of your time and flashy lights and stuff. Yeah. And this is just like a single player game meant to be bought once and played by yourself for like 20 to 30 hours or 40 to 50 for some of us. And that's it. And I think that's actually like, almost like a foreign concept to some of these gamers who have grown up on things that are the polar opposite of that.
Yeah. I don't know. Is this a different problem from the, extremely disliked Steam review with a playtime of 300 hours? Like, is this the same phenomenon, or is this a different type of person?
This game's not worth your time. 3,900 hours logged. Like,
you should never play it. I've spent my entire life playing it. It's not worth it.
Yeah. I don't know. I spent, because I played it for closer to 50 hours, I ended up spending a whole $36, right? Because I needed 2 months of Ubisoft to play this game, and that feels like more than a fair deal. I will still probably go back to Tashara and like go all freaking Rambo on the Stormtroopers at least a few more times.
Yeah, like this is definitely a game that I plan on buying when it's on Steam sale in, like you said, 8 months, a year. It's on Steam sale with like its special edition or whatever, and like you can get it for $20. I'll probably pick it up, and I may not ever play it again, but I think it's a game worth owning and potentially going back to one day, because I think there is some good content here, and I hope that this hasn't like scared them away, that like the lower sales numbers and the kind of negative reception hasn't scared them away from some of their DLC plans and like their expansion of this universe. Because I'd like to see more of Kay's adventures and more of Indy 5 and just more of like these mechanics maybe tweaked a little bit and put into different settings. Like, I think there is a really good core base here, and it's one of the more enjoyable times I've had this year.
I will say, my final thoughts on it are really like, I do recommend you play it. I think a lot of people were turned off by like, oh, it's Assassin's Creed Star Wars. And like, yes and no. A couple years back during COVID, I went through and played through almost every Assassin's Creed game instead of doing my job. And what I will say is they've gotten away from this thing where they just totally overload your map with just like hundreds of white icons that turn gray when you go do the thing. Like, and I do think that this game is much better for that. It's really more of like, you can go out and explore and find something. Like, you might find something interesting, you might not. You can get a lead from a data pad in town or a contract that will send you to somewhere interesting. But it isn't just like you see the 27 icons on the map and you go and you do the one thing on each of them. Like, they've gotten away from that. And so I will say, if that was your concern, do not be concerned. I think this game has done a good job moving away from that. I found it pretty fun. Like we've all said, $18, totally worth it. I recommend this game in the Ubisoft Plus route, like for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a fun open world game. And if you're a Star Wars fan, it's great. It just won't be the next, 6 months of your life. Play it for a little while and then move on.
Yeah, I think the game definitely is at its best because of the Star Wars brand and license and what it does with the Star Wars universe. If this were not a Star Wars game, I imagine it falls a lot more flat for me. It's like, okay, it's fine, but it's nothing special. But with the Star Wars effect, just putting the sound design, the environment design, the world, it really elevated it into something special for me, and I really did enjoy it. It's one of my favorites of the year, I think, and it relies a lot on the Star Wars element of it. But if you're a big Star Wars fan and you liked that thing, I think you would really enjoy this experience.
Man, even the blaster fire is just so good, right? It's that heavy.
It sounds so good.
Yeah, that heavy, weighty shot. It's like Andor. So if you watched Andor and you just want to play in that universe, come play Star Wars Outlaws.
Austin, whatever comment you read that said this game doesn't feel like Star Wars, like, dude, go get a CAT scan. Like you might actually have a tumor growing in a part of your brain.
Like you clearly have never watched Star Wars or experienced any Star Wars media if you think this doesn't feel like Star Wars.
That about wraps up this episode on Ubisoft's latest action adventure, Star Wars Outlaws.
As always, you can listen to all of our episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcasting platform.
And you can follow us on all the social medias at the Games Gone By podcast.
Signing off for Games Gone By, I'm Adam.
I'm Austin.
And I'm going to go finish the game now.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Ooh.